So this is my final exam video. So first I'll start with why it's important that we all go see famous works of art. And I'm kind of going to tie this into art preservation and why it's important. So we preserve art so it gives us a glimpse of our heritage and our culture, not just our culture as, Americans or Italians or Greeks, but as our culture in every single aspect in all cultures. It just gives us a glimpse into what life was like then and what was important then. And it helps us reflect the changes in time and of the various cultures, as well as it connects our past and our present. So, to answer this question, it's important that we go see works of art so we can be in touch with our history and our culture. Now, why I think it's important for me personally to go see famous works of art is because I have never really seen them too much before, and I think it's something that not just me but everybody should go out and see. Everybody should be able to see David. Everybody should be able to see the Artesian bronze. Everybody should be able to see the Birth of Venus, because these are magnificent pieces and it gives us just a tiny glimpse into the creativity and the evolution in technology that makes these pieces possible. And I think that's a really, really beautiful thing. And it was one of the things that stuck out to me the most whenever I was viewing these pieces of art, was just the sheer talent and making do with the resources you have to create these such extravagant pieces of art. So as for the societies that preserve the art that we see, it says a lot about what they think is important and why they think preserving art is important. I'm sure it's in the billions now, the amount of money that has been spent to preserve art and to make it look new again. And people do this because art is one of the only things that really connects us to, the beginnings of civilization, the Neanderthals, to everything. Because they obviously use symbols in art to convey what life was like then, because that is the only way that they could. And of course, whenever they were creating this art and stuff, their goal wasn't for people to see it 50,000 years later. Their goal was to express themselves. And I think that societies that choose to preserve this art, especially that of, works that are 50,000 years old, it's to give us insight into what life was like. So the people that preserve this art, they see the importance of knowing our history and knowing our foundations and our beginnings. And art is really the only way we can do that besides fossils. I must say that insane works of art like the Birth of Venus and the Kiss are situated in Europe, and in Europe they have so much more art than we do in America. Not necessarily more art, but more famous art. And they preserve more than we do in America as far as artwork goes. And so this kind of just shows to mention just how less in tune Americans are with, art. It's not really a very big thing here. It is to some, of course, but not as big as it is in Europe, not as important. And, I just feel like there's so many more museums in Europe, but maybe I'm lying. I don't know. I think that people risking their lives for art, like those that chose to hide art during World War II from the Nazis who kept taking it, or those who purposely built an entire stone encasement around David during World War II. I think it just shows the importance to people, how important it is to preserve our art. Me personally, I probably would never, ever, ever risk my life for the Birth of Venus, but it just shows to mention how important this history is to people. So, the first time, and the first of many, that I experienced wonder was at the Modern and Contemporary Art Museum in Rome. And it was in that first room you went in that had all the paintings that were from floor to ceiling, just beautiful, beautiful works of art. And I have never felt what is called Stendhal syndrome. And it's whenever a piece of art or something of the sort is so beautiful and so impactful that it physically moves you. I started bawling my eyes out. I had never been in a room that had so much beauty in it in my entire life. And that was the very first time that I experienced Stendhal syndrome and that wonder effect. The next impactful one, or the one that I will remember for the rest of my life, was going to Piazza Michelangelo and seeing the entire view of Florence. And while it was hell to get there and it was even worse to get back, it was by far just the most astonishing view I've ever seen in my entire life. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was breathtaking. And it kind of just, that experience made everything that I had dealt with worth it. Not just from the trip, not just from the stress of the trip or getting ready for the trip or all the money that I spent from my own pockets on the trip. It was every single step I took before that brought me here, that brought me to that spot. And I finally, for one of the first times in my entire life, I'm about to get emotional now, everything felt worth it. Everything that I did, every long night, all the all-nighters, every hardship that I've ever dealt with, I feel like it led up to this moment and it led up to that view. And I've never felt a feeling like I did whenever I was on Piazza Michelangelo. It was just wonder. It was literally wonder. It was the best experience. So to tie that into how this trip will affect me in the future and affect my overall experience, this was a very difficult trip for me. I missed my family. I'd never been that far away. I'd never been out of the country. So I experienced so much culture shock in this trip, so much. But it shaped me in a way. To know that beauty like that exists and people live in those beautiful, beautiful places, it makes me want to go back, not just there, but to every country in the world and experience their food and experience their quality of life and their way of life and their day-to-day. It gave me more perspective that I didn't have as someone that had never been out of America. And I am now so drawn to these different cultures, and not just like Italian culture and Austrian culture, because there was so much more than that in these countries. But just overall, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't. I guess you can say I have a newfound appreciation for cultures and art, the one that I didn't really necessarily have before this trip. And even the papers let me learn so much. As hard as they were, they allowed me to learn so much about not just culture, but the fine arts. And it was something that I never thought I would have so much interest in. I didn't think that I would be able to, write 3 pages about avant-garde and then reflect on it and understand it and actually enjoy what I'm learning. So I think that this trip has really highlighted something for me, that maybe I do like fine arts a lot. And it also kind of solidified that my choice of major, communication, is exactly what I want to be doing. I want to talk to people, and I want to experience different cultures, and I want to reflect on them, and I want to relate it to what I'm learning. And I think that was the biggest goal of this trip, and also what will affect me the most is just how much I've learned.